Uumuu is the best boss fight I have ever experienced. She's the only boss that is bouncier than your mom, and has more attacks than a Tekken character, making her very tricky to consistently do hitless. Hello, I'm Laphi, and I did the Hollow Knight no-hit run some time ago, on my Twitch channel. The video playing in the background is me fighting Uumuu 12 times back to back without taking damage in one sitting. I initially meant to do 10 fights as a proof of concept, but I lost count, so I did 2 more just to be sure. Anyways, in this guide, I'll refer to Uumuu as she and her, because she's cute. No, just so I don't have to specify her by name every sentence. And while that's playing, I'll explain this video. I'll be given an in-depth rundown on everything about Uumuu, to the best of my knowledge. It's probably too much information for a lot of people, so I recommend you check out the timestamps to quickly skip to the information you need. She's a deceptively difficult boss to do hitless consistently, and I was tearing my hair out trying to figure out ways to make it consistent. So now you don't have to. For the general purposes of this guide, this is my build. Most no-hit runs have these items and upgrades available. Regardless of what you choose, this guide should help you do Uumuu hitless if you're feeling stuck. I've never made a guide like this before, and I mostly just want to share the various things I've learned while I went through this journey. Let me know if I missed anything. I hope you learned something from this and enjoy the video. Uumuu has 300 health and 2 attacks. When you start the fight, she will attack you a few times. Then Quirrell shows up to burst her bubble. Then, it's your turn to deal damage. Repeat this until she dies. And that's the whole boss fight. Except not! This boss is dumber than you think. At the beginning of the fight, she usually does 3 attacks before Quirrell shows up. But sometimes Quirrell's late, and she does an extra attack. Same goes for later cycles. She usually does 2, but sometimes does 3. As far as I know, there's nothing you can do to prevent this extra attack, so always be ready for it. She moves for about 2 seconds before and after each attack, trying to touch you inappropriately. When she is stunned, she'll be vulnerable for about 4 seconds and slowly drift in a direction away from the knight, because she's shy. Sometimes Uumuu does not get knocked back when you strike her. After asking around and doing testing, I discovered that this happens if you attack her very quickly after the stun. Try to account for it and don't bump into her. The steady body charm can help you counter this if you find yourself getting hit because of this phenomena. If you manage to Dream Nail after the first stun, you'll get enough soul to almost guarantee a kill in the next cycle. But it's risky since she won't stop coming towards you. An interesting thing to note is that Dream Nailing her during the first cycle will cause her to be knocked back, but not anytime after Quirrell first stuns her. Dream Nailing her while she's stunned will always cause knockback. Uumuu only has 2 attacks. I'll call them by how they are on the wiki: Burst and Chase. An important thing to note is that Uumuu will not do the same attack more than twice, meaning it's in your best interest to remember her most recent attacks. If you see her doing one attack 2 times in a row, then you can be ready and predict the next attack. You can ignore all of this and avoid them both if you have godly reactions. But that doesn't describe me personally, so I had to figure out some strategies. To avoid the burst, you have to stand in the right place. Here are 4 comfy safe spots in each corner that I like to use. Uumuu zaps your current position 8 times. To avoid this, you have to keep moving. Here are some quick tips. If you are high up, you can slide down the walls to avoid them easily. If you are down low, I recommend going upwards, either diagonally or up the nearest wall. Pogoing off of her while being chased is fun and quite thrilling. Try it out. Although there's only 2 attacks, the problem is you don't know which one's coming next. One of them wants you to stand still, and the other wants you to move. This is the conundrum that pushed me to make this guide. I thought I would be fine if I just wait at a safe spot and simply react. But I realized my reactions aren't that good, especially when I'm nervous. So I sure as hell can't rely on it when I'm on a good run. So here's what I devised. Position yourself a little bit away from one of the 4 safe spots. When Uumuu is preparing an attack, begin moving towards it. And that's it. This simple movement covers both attacks, and here's how. If she ends up doing the burst, you'll be at the safe spot. If it's a chase, then you'll have already avoided the first zap, and have plenty of time to identify it and keep moving. During the 3 seconds that Uumuu moves, it's worth trying to manipulate her movement so that she doesn't block any platforms or to position her in a place that you can deal damage. I figured out my own formula that I try to do each attempt, but I'll show in the conclusion section. But generally, this is how she moves. The moment she begins moving is the most important part, since she immediately moves at full speed and can't steer very well. So make sure you're positioned somewhere you want her to go, right before she begins moving. And then you can work on your own positioning, such as heading towards a safe spot. Alright, where are we trying to move her? I try to move her so that she ends up about this far from the wall. The height she ends up at helps too, but I'll get into that later in the 1 cycle guide. But you don't have to worry too much about it. If this is too much to think about, generally you want her to not block the middle platform, while also keeping her near the middle. If you want the fabled, mythical, unimaginable, one cycle. It's a bit more complicated. I'll get into the 1 cycle later. Check the timestamp. You only have a 4-second window to deal damage. Here are some tips to capitalize on that small opportunity. You probably already know about your Shade Soul being able to hit her twice sometimes. To consistently do this, these conditions must be met. She needs room to be pushed back. If she is against the wall, she stops being pushed back, and you'll miss out on 40 damage. She also needs to be on screen, since your fireball disappears off screen at some point. And finally, you can't be too close. This is because when you shoot, fireball starts here, so it passes through her faster. I like to be this far when I begin shooting fireballs. To better understand this distance, imagine there's another Uumuu-sized space between you two. By being at this distance, you can shoot 2 fireballs and get double hits on both without repositioning. Without strong charms like Spell Twister, it's okay to only fire once or twice, then use your nail a few times for the first cycle. It's better to wait for opportunities to do double hits than settling for single hits, since you'll be missing out on 40 damage each time you miss. Yo, 1 cycle! Yo! We got this shit! Nice! To kill Uumuu in the first cycle, you basically need to deal 300 damage within 4 seconds. It's extremely tough with the 80% build, since these are the damage values you're working with. A successful one cycle is determined by your positioning, for both you and Uumuu, execution, getting all your fireballs to hit twice as fast as possible, and some luck, because sometimes Uumuu refuses to be pushed back or she does more attacks than expected before Quirrell shows up. Positioning refers to getting both you and Uumuu in the right place when Quirrell stuns her. I recommend getting her stunned around these areas next to a wall so that you have the most amount of space possible to push her back before she hits the opposite wall. Execution is how well you can land your fireballs to maximize damage and spacing yourself as fast as possible to catch up to her while she's being pushed back. If you dash, it puts you at just the right position to get another double hit. The problem is touching a platform to refresh your dash while time is quickly running out. That's why this position is favorable to me, since you have more platforms to work with to dash. I'll show examples of 3 different one cycles in order from easiest to hardest. With these charms, you have 4 fireballs, which, if you double hit them all, is just enough to kill if you land them all. If you have Fury, you'll have to use at least 3 nail attacks and land 3 fireball shots. I recommend starting by slashing first, but there are other methods that I've seen when I looked it up on YouTube. I was struggling for a couple days trying to do a one cycle with Fragile Strength and Shaman Stone, and I only came close a few times. Even I have my limits, so I'm going to show the speedrunner, ManicJamie, who did even better by using only Shaman Stone. Amazing. I hope this section was helpful because it was definitely the hardest part of this video to make because of how difficult one cycles are to do and to teach. But when you get a one cycle down, it's art. I'm not sure what to do for conclusion, so I'll go through the video of me killing Uumuu 12 times in a row, pick one fight at random, and commentate over it without a script, explaining all the strats that I mentioned in this guide. Here we go. So when I begin the fight, I like to lure her to the top left at the beginning here. And then, when she starts moving, I'll make my way to the safe spot at the bottom left. Her first attack is a chase, so I'll move diagonally upwards. This puts me in a position to lure her back towards the center. Position myself to the safe spot again, and it's another chase. Since the last 2 attacks were a chase, I know the next one will be burst, so I chill here. She does a 4th attack when there's usually 3, so that's unlucky. Quirrell's gonna be showing up for sure here, so I prepare by manipulating her movement in this direction so that she's perfectly distanced from the wall. Stun, and then begin firing the Shade Souls, making sure not to be too close and such so that they all do double hits. Once again, stay by the safe spots to dodge her next attacks. She's very close to death, so I'm not worrying too much about her position, just focusing on dodging. And that's it. Before I go, I just want to thank you for watching this video. The scope of this guide turned out a bit bigger than I expected, but I'm happy with how it turned out. I hope you learned a lot from this, or laughed at my jokes. More guides to come in the future, and follow me on Twitch for more Hollow Knight stuff to come. During the 3 seconds that Uumuu moves, moves.